Aloha, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for, braving the traffic out there and coming here to church this great Sunday morn. And for those that are asking, Reverend Tim is a little bit under the weather, so he called me yesterday asking if I'd be able to give today's message, and I joyfully said yes. So we send blessing, healing prayers to you, Reverend Tim, as you continue on your path healthward. And so he also gave me instructions that, of course, since this is the week of peace in the Advent season, that I should be speaking on that. And I found it quite amusing that I would have to be the one speaking on that. Not that there's anything that is not so peaceful about me, but I know that recently I've gone through some ups and some downs, and I'll go through that in a little bit. And so I guess you teach what you still need to learn. So I suppose then I would be the perfect one to give this. But we do have, before we begin with the Advent message, we do have Christmas upon us. And how many of you are excited about Christmas time? All right, 17 of you, awesome, thank you. Yes, and growing up, I want to see, there's a slide, Kathy, about the wish book. Does anybody remember the Sears wish book? Yes, look, that was the most read book in my family during that season. I mean, nothing else beat it. By the time December 25th hit, that thing was toe up from the flow up. And so we definitely learned a lot through that book. So for those that may not know, the Sears Wish book was this book that they sent out yearly, and it had toys and electronics, everything that you could think of to just make a child's mind wander about what Santa Claus was going to bring them. And we would take turns. There's four of us, 4 children in the family, so we would have to manage our time and take turns to looking at the wish book, planning out exactly what we wanted, calculating things. And so we became great accountants, became great time managers, and great authoritarians apparently too, because as soon as 20 minutes was up, the next person was right at the door waiting to get that wish book. So unfortunately, with that, Christmas has kind of turned into this commercialized experience. I believe Christmas now starts October 31st. I mean, the moment the last trick-or-treater comes to the door, suddenly some of y'all be putting up Christmas trees and reindeer in the front yard, and I just can't understand it, because I feel that, in December after Thanksgiving is more of the time. And in my family, it was like 2 weeks before Christmas, then the Christmas tree came up. We did not start any season too early, just to kind of give it its time and place and space. So we do see that Christmas has become more of this way that marketers and it's a consumer-based and profit-based holiday these days. In 2021, I believe it was $877.7 billion was spent by consumers to fulfill their wish list, to fulfill the holiday spirit. Can you imagine? $877 billion, almost $900 billion. Who's got that in the bank? Apparently we Americans do. And so I'm just wanting to get back to what the real season is about. Instead of this shopping and spending and marketing, we've lost the focus. And this started in the early 19th century when they realized that they could market to children with this idea of Santa Claus, and it's just evolved over the time. And what I want to do is bring us back to the real spirit and gifts of Christmas. So anybody want to go on that journey with me? All right, I just needed to hear it once, and I heard the loudest voice over there, so we're going to start with this one. So I want to first start with, I think we have Santa Claus off the screen, but I want to start with lighting of the Advent candle. And so we light the Advent candle every single Sunday, and today we are lighting the Advent candle for peace. And Isaiah 9:6 reads, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, And the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This is a season where we are honoring that presence of the Christ. Not the presence of Nintendo, not the presence of Macy's, but the presence of the Christ in our lives. And I often notice that during this time there is a special air about this season. I've mentioned this before, that it's kind of hard to get that feeling here in Hawaii because there's no real changes and drops in temperature. I can't go outside and throw a snowball at my neighbor or anything, but the air does change. Does anybody else notice that about this season? It does. There's something wonderful and magical about being in the spirit of Christmas, of the Christos, of the anointed one. To celebrate that, to take up those gifts instead of what the marketing agency would say would be the better gift. I promise you, God has in store for you something that is far greater than any mall out there, any Amazon shopping cart, what have you. There is something greater within you. And one of those gifts is the gift of peace. And the revealing word talks about each of us being a peacemaker, that we are the beacons of light that this world is needing to see, that the peace begins within us, that we cannot find it out there. The world is not the giver of any peace that you seek. And the revealing word goes on to say that a peacemaker is one who has the ability to say peace to the turbulent waves of thought and have the thought obey them. Without raising your hands, I don't want to give any giveaways. I can raise mine though. How many of you find it rather difficult during turbulent times to control your thoughts? That they tend to go down the river of despair sometimes, of disdain, of unforgiveness, whatever that is. I know personally for myself, oftentimes when I come up against a large mountain, I question how I'm ever going to get through it. My thoughts start to challenge God's presence, let's say, in my life. I start to look for peace somewhere else. And the moment I start looking for peace outside of myself is the moment I've already lost it. It cannot be obtained through that way. And this also goes on to say that a peacemaker is one who reduces to peace and harmony, so reduces themselves to peace and harmony, all the thoughts of strife, anger, and retaliation in one's own mind. The ability to say peace to thoughts and have them obey entitles you to the sonship of the Most High. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. And that's from Matthew 5:9. So we're all called during this time to be these peacemakers, to be that peace that we wish to see in the world. But how do we obtain that? How many of you watch CNN, Fox News, the local, whatever, and get your news sources? I know there's at least one of you out there. And right now, if you look at what's on the news, you'll see that this world looks a bit chaotic. I know in South Korea, they just did something. Israel has things going on. Iran, wherever you go, there's some type of news reports of war, famine, discord, disease, whatever that is. And we're called during this time of peace to not so much turn our back away from it, but to hold the truth of the presence of God within it. So these are challenges that we're given, opportunities for growth each and every day. Whenever we see something outside of ourselves and we want to blame, shame, and hold on to resentment, that is our opportunity for growth right then and right there. We are called to bring to that situation the gift that is within us. This week, it's the gift of peace. You may not be able to go to Iran and affect change there. But what you can do is go to the Iran in your mind. Send a blessing. Send peace to them through your own prayers, through the own presence of that oneness within you. Holding the truth for your brothers and sisters there, for the world leaders, wherever it is in the world that things are happening, holding to the truth instead. The news will report what it reports. The world will grow through what it goes through. We understand that. But you can stand firmly planted in that presence of truth of peace. And peace, I say, is often interpreted and life managed. We all interpret through what is happening through our own individual lens. This is proven time and time again in court cases where several eyewitnesses look at the same accident or what have you, and people give a different accounts of what happened. One person reports the person was in a red shirt. The next one, they were in a blue jogging suit, and so on and so forth. That we each show up to circumstances, situations with our own colored lenses on. And this stems from our childhood as well. Different traumas we might have gone through, different experiences, what have you, as we bring them into adulthood, kind of shape and mold exactly how we're interpreting the world. I know there was one friend that I had many years ago. I would go to her house, and there would be kids climbing up the walls, jumping and doing things as kids do, and I found it quite chaotic, and I was not at peace there. But she could care less. It was the most joyful experience when her kids were having fun and they were being themselves. You can find that some people may find the bird song annoying. I had a friend visit me once here, and I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and the birds started singing, and they got annoyed at that. And I was just like, this is the most peaceful sound to me. Each one of us is bringing to the table our own level of interpretation of what everything is to us. And A Course in Miracles says, I have given everything all the meaning it has for me. Whether it's the light to the bird, to the ocean, to your next door neighbor's dog. You have given everything you see and experience all the meaning it has for you. And each one of us has a different meaning of what something represents. And so peace is often felt differently in our lives as well. But peace, to be understood correctly, is not just the absence of conflict, but it's the knowledge of God within too. It's knowing who and what and whose and what you are. It's about standing firmly in that truth. That the world can shake them and break them, but you stand as a pillar. So I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I went to South Korea, and it was a wonderful, magical time. I loved it. The shopping experience was grand. How many people here have been to South Korea? All right, I see my South, and I want to I have my friends that I went to South Korea with, Lavon, we have Melanie, and then we have Karen as well. And so all of us made it back safely. We have lots of stories to tell. The trip was unbelievable, and I feel that each one of us has learned a valuable lesson through it. And I think that most of all, I think the challenge is maintaining our peace through all of it. That we're without going into many of the details, that things were not as they seemed the entire 10 days that we were there. That we were each called to kind of be on our toes every day and to show up, as difficult or as easy as it might have been, depending on the time, the place, and everything else, in a state of peace, in a state of love. That each one of us had an opportunity on that trip to be more loving, to be more peaceful. And even to this day, we get to show up and interpret the things and events that are happening because of that trip in a way that is either loving or judgmental or what have you. But we often look outside of ourselves to finding that peace that only is within. We're oftentimes telling ourselves, well, if only ... were to happen, if only I had more money, if only the boyfriend behaved, if only the dog stopped chewing on my clothes, and if only the kids behaved, that we would finally have some peace about us. If only the world leaders would just get it right, then I could finally sleep at night. The if onlys are robbing us of what we already have available within us. If we look to someone else, whether it's a government, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a boss, whether it is the ocean even, sometimes those things may ground us, but sometimes they may be turbulent as well. And if we look to something outside of us as the source of our peace, we will miss the mark every time. When you first start to look within, you will find a mighty reservoir just available, waiting. And I'm telling you, just waiting for you to tap it. Now, have I tapped it lately? No comments. But I know it's available to me. Not that I like the drama and the ups and the downs in life, but sometimes it's a little exciting, and so I just allow it to continue until a point, but then there comes a point where I do have to come back to myself and meditate and pray, or send blessings to myself first of all, and just be one with myself first and my Creator before I can think about going out there. Truth of the matter is, without many spiritual practices in your life, peace is very hard to obtain. If you're not in prayer, if you're not in gratitude, if you're not in meditation, you can choose any one of those and that would be suffice. But you need to get back to yourself. You need to find the center again. Because that world, they tell me, will chew you up and spit you out. And that's not a fun place to be or a condition to be in. We often find when the mind is unsettled, everything around us becomes chaotic. The moment I settle my mind, the moment I become at peace within myself, it doesn't matter that there would be a fire in the North Hills and a flood in the South. If I am at peace and if I am centered and I know and trust that God is with me, that all of it can go up and I stay planted. And the moment that I decide to stop doing the things that ground me, that keep me firmly seated and rooted, is when everything, if the tide is washing south, I'm with it. The wind is blowing west, I'm going with it. So I become one of those, you go outside one of the car dealership lots and you see one of those things floating, I'll be that exactly. So we're called to be pillars and to stand firmly implanted during this time in peace as well. And I'm all off of my notes here. I don't even know where I'm at. A Course in Miracles tells us that anytime we do experience this appearance, a situation where we need more peace, that we can ask the Holy Spirit for assistance, that we could say, I could see peace instead of this. Apple Cash is not available right now. I got it. I could see peace instead of this. And you can. I wouldn't want to say that peace is a choice, but peace is a position that I choose to side with when I am cognizant. And oftentimes when I've decided against peace is when I know I've decided against peace. The moment anything turns up in your life that doesn't feel harmonious is the moment that you may have decided against peace. A Course in Miracles tells us, just by saying this and praying to the Holy Spirit, I could see peace instead of this, opens up the invitation, your willingness to experience peace instead of what is happening out there. So we're called during this time, first of all, to cease fire. And so that's actually what my sermon title, I changed it a little bit from Reverend Tim's. I like to add a little military spin to it. And it's a ceasefire. It's a laying down of your weapons. What are these weapons that that prevent us from experiencing peace? Well, the first one I want to say is judgment, condemnation, ridicule, fear, unforgiveness, shame, guilt. I mean, there's many other ways that fear ultimately shows up as a 1,000 or a million shades of gray to it. But it's always the one outcome. It always leads you away from peace when we're in these states of being. And so I'm inviting you, each one of you, to a ceasefire. Just for this week. You can go back to the war zone after Saturday of next week. You can gear up, whatever you need to do, armor up, what have you, and go fight the good fight if you want to. But this week, I invite you to lay down your weapons. And like I said, some of them are right there. Lay them down. And withdraw your attention from applying them and using them. First of all, against yourself. I was at dance on Friday night, and everything, I just felt a little bit off. I wasn't getting the moves. I'm a little awkward and everything else at times. I'm long and lanky, and I was very critical of myself to the point where I wanted to give up. And there was the ego inside of me was like, no, just you look horrible out there. You're getting worse instead of getting better. And, it just gave me a million reasons why I should not go and do the thing I love to do and to be critical of myself. And later on, while I was talking to my friend Levon, I realized that, and she was showing me videos of how much I had improved. And sometimes you have those little angels in your life that, kind of whisper to you that you're still on the right road, that keep on going. And I realized that there's criticality about myself. I wanted to release. I was just attacking myself. I was arming myself against myself. And I needed to stop doing that if I wanted to be at peace. My happiness wasn't there in my judgment. So I had to lay down my weapons and decide for me, decide for peace. And peace is doing the things that I love. So I continue on. Decide to lay down your weapons, cease fire for others this week. Anytime you find yourself critical of someone or even situations or circumstances happening, rather than seeing it against you, I invite you to just speak a prayer to it, to bless it instead of curse it. As we lay down our weapons, we'll find that the world just may show up differently for us, or at least we'll have a better attitude when we decide to side with peace. When we decide to feel peace within us and not allow things to feel like an attack. But these are opportunities for each one of us to release our stronghold on a certain outcome, or how a person is acting, or what they did or didn't do for us. We can release all of it and go in peace instead. So the gift ideas this week are forgiveness, unification. Come together. Maybe you haven't spoken to somebody in a while. Somebody that deserves your forgiveness, after you've applied it to yourself, of course. To show up in sacred service, helping out at the food kitchen, or here at the church, or what have you. To bring that peace and share it, because that's what a gift is all about. You have it within you, and that gift is meant to be shared with others. And so I want to tell a little bit of a story, because I have a video about a wonderful instance of peace. But after I got back from South Korea, I was talking to my mother on the phone. And I know my mom loves when I complain to her. That's why I call her up and I'm like, Mom, and I get to let her have it, and she just, there to listen. But after I had spoken about everything that was kind of happening within my life, my own circumstances and situations, she's like, Johanna, I've been listening to your services, and what do you guys sing at the end of the service? Let there be peace on earth, and what? I said, oh, and let it begin with me. And so I had to just sit back and kind of laugh at myself, because my mother was calling me to action, to put what I had learned and what we are preaching each and every Sunday and singing about, that peace, to actually apply it to my life. To be that peace, that it begins and starts with me. So thanks, Mother. I appreciate your kind lesson. And world peace ultimately is what we're really, as Cindy had said, when there's a harmony within the soul, there's beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, something like that. Confucius was a very wise philosopher. But we're called to first allow it to begin with us. And at the very end, then it transforms the world. And in I believe it was 1915, World War I, it was the Americans and the Germans, and they were on the same battlefield, and it was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And before the 48 hours was over, there was peace in the world, and even for that one moment, that one instance, that it is possible, even when you're on the front lines with your adversary, that peace can still be attained in that moment. And so I'd like to play that video for you right now.
Jenkins, Oakley, Knight.
Ein Blitzer kommt! Ein Blitzer kommt!
Jim?
Jim, no, don't do it!
Halt! Er ist nicht bewaffnet! Nein, Otto!
Jim.
My name is Jim.
Mein Name ist Otto.
Pleased to meet you, Otto.
Freut mich.
Rose, she's called.
Sie ist schön. Ist schön. Danke. Happy Christmas. Frohe Weihnachten.
And so I just invite you to close the outer eyes as we take this time to reflect, to sit in that peace that exists right here and right now within each one of us. To just breathe into that expression that God has already placed within you. What is already within you can never be depleted, cannot be taken away from you, was meant to be shared with the world. That this gift of peace this season is possible. That what God has done before, God can do again. Let us rest with that awareness and that presence of peace within us as we go into the silence. And bring our attention and awareness to this space and time. God, we feel that presence of peace. We go through this week spreading peace to everyone we meet. We are the beacon of light, and we claim it now, and it is so. Amen. Amen.